sending greetings. And so when we think about those people who are sending those greetings with Paul, he mentions, this is Timothy, my spiritual son, someone that Paul was presently discipling. And so that's an important point, because we have to recognize that just like we need a spiritual mom to call us out on stuff and somebody to encourage us as we go along, it is our job to also encourage somebody else. We need to be the spiritual mentor to somebody. Now, you can be a spiritual mentor whether you've been a Christian for a day or whether you've been a Christian for decades. It's important for us that no matter where we are in life to start pouring into somebody else. Paul did that with Timothy. When I lived in Fort Lauderdale, and I was working within the student ministry, I had a couple of kids that were in my small group. And there was one particular student, and he had been through so much in his life, and I just took to really praying for him, praying that God would impact his heart, that he would open him up and just really do things in his life. And I started praying for this kid, and eventually I said to him, you know what, I just need you to know that I'm really praying for you. I'm rooting for you. And we got to have this relationship where eventually he started to say, oh, that's just my mom over there. She's like my spiritual mom. That's my mom. And I used to say, oh, that's my boy, that's my son. And it was so important because I would pray for him and he knew he could come to me and that I would encourage him as he went along in that spiritual walk. And the other day he tweeted something about being a graduate. And I said, have you graduated college already? I'm so proud of you. And then in true mom fashion, I said, now where are my pictures? Because I did not see a cap and gown. And he said, oh, I have to send it to you. And so he sent me 2 pictures, and he had this big, bright smile on his face, and I was so proud. And at the bottom he said, I had to smile with teeth just like you always told me to, because I feel like these teenagers, they have this straight face, and I'm like, what is that? I want to see your teeth. You're a gorgeous teenager. That's fantastic. You look amazing. Enjoy it while you can. And so I used to always harp on him, smile with teeth. Mama wants to see that smile. And so we had that beautiful relationship, so much to the point that my mom, who never had any biological children, because I'm the oldest and that just did not happen yet, but she never had any biological grandchildren, but she started to say, well, that's my grandson. And he started to say, he actually gave my mom her grandmother name that, no one else would ever call her, but he said, oh yeah, that's Mimi, because she's my spiritual grandma. And so we had this relationship, and so as I cheered him on, even to this day where he's graduated and we're still in contact and I'm still cheering him on, that's what it means to be in somebody's life and pouring into them, to continue to pray for them. That's what Paul did with Timothy, and that's why it's important that we make sure we always have somebody who we are pouring into. And so what we can learn from this is that wherever Paul went, he made sure that he was surrounded by people who were encouraging him in his faith walk. Even the people that he was discipling, that's encouragement, because you know that you have to be right with the Lord in order to pour into somebody else. That's encouraging you along the way. And so when we think about, celebrating the class of 2018, we understand that, yes, it's extremely important for them to recognize who they are in Christ and to keep moving forward in that. To make sure that we as a church have a responsibility to be the ones back home cheering them on. It means that if you are a single adult, then you have a responsibility to make it a point to be someone else's encouragement. It means that if you're a parent, whether you're a single parent or married, you have a responsibility to teach your children from a young age to spend time with people who are going to push them on and push them into encouraging their relationship with Christ. I remember as a kid, my mom was helping us understand those principles before we really understood what that meant, because we had a pool in the backyard, and on the sliding glass door she would put the pool rules, and we were like, okay, so mom's got a list of rules that we have to follow, which was all fine and good, but at the very top of the list was pray first. And we were like, but it's our pool, like, Mom and Dad, you guys are in there, we're safe, everything's fine, why do we need to pray? But there were 3 of us growing up in the household, and so if we knew that when we were about to go out and play in the pool, we had to pray first, that means we had to build that community with each other. And then it meant when the neighborhood kids came over to our house, it meant that we had to pray with the neighborhood kids. So what an example to set to say, yes, we might be transitioning into another period in our lives, a different playtime, but it's great to build community first. And those were the relationships that we built. That was the witness that we had on our block, was to understand that even as a child, you can build community that's going to connect you with God and push you towards relationship with other people, even in the simple things. And so, as a parent, it's important for you to teach your children that. If you're a married couple or empty nesters, it means that your spouse is not the end-all be-all. You have to have other people outside of that relationship who are pushing you on towards what God has called you to. It means that if you're a senior adult, then your work is not yet done. You have so much wisdom to pour into the lives of other people. You have a responsibility to do that. And so what we can remember is that as we walk from one life stage to the next, we have to be sure to surround ourselves with the proper people to set ourselves up for success. That same success that we talked about in verses 17 through 20, where we understand that we have to be wise. We have to be innocent of what is evil so that we are doing the good work for the Lord. So Paul leaves us with this idea that community is what sets us up for living wisely, the people that we surround ourselves with. And so if community is sharing in relationship with one another, then we have to recognize that the most important relationship that we have is the one that we have with God. And so as we think about sharing that relationship, then we understand that if that priority is first, that community with Christ, then we have that vertical relationship that affects our horizontal relationships with each other. And so I want for us to think about that and remember that as we start to celebrate communion on this first Sunday of the month. Because this is our opportunity to think about that vertical relationship, that community that we have with God the Father and Christ the Son. We have to think about that and how it affects the relationships we have with other people. Pastor Jeff is going to come and lead us in communion, and I would love for us to just consider those things. Consider who you are surrounding yourself with. Be intentional about all of those things so that we can truly have success and be wise in what is good and innocent of what is evil.